European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker and European Council President Donald Tusk, two of the leading figures in the direction of the European project, revealed an ongoing row at the heart of Brussels during the joint press conference. This week, the rift centres on how the EU selects the successor to Mr Juncker in the top Commission job next year, as the EU 27 heads of state joined Mr Tusk in criticising Mr Juncker's position. Mr Juncker and the European Parliament has voiced the support for the controversial Spitzenkandidat process, a method Mr Juncker himself used to rise to power, but in a rare public clash between the EU's top officials, Mr Tusk forcefully rejected that view. Getty. European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker and European Council President Donald Tusk, leaders from the 27 member states, also distanced themselves from the process, denouncing the system during the summit on Friday. The leaders believe the process takes away too much power from member states. Under the Spitzenkandidat process, the top job goes to the lead candidate from the PANU party that receives the most votes in European Parliament elections. This puts the MEPs and Mr Juncker on a collision course with Mr Tusk and the member states' leaders. During a tense moment at this week's summit, Mr Tusk, standing next to Mr Juncker, told the press the idea that Spitzenkandidat N is somehow more democratic is wrong. The treaty says that the President of European Commission should be proposed by the democratically elected leaders of the member states. Getty. Rift centres on how the EU selects the successor to Mr Juncker in the top Commission job. Friday, October 20, 2017, Emmanuel Macron holds a press conference on the second day of European Council meetings in the Brussels bubble. These things are pretty major. Jean-Claude Juncker, and that he or she should be elected by the democratically elected members of the European Parliament. This is the double democratic legitimacy of the Commission President. Cutting away any of the two sources of legitimacy would make it less democratic, not more. However, in response to Mr Tusk's claim that this debate was very much a Brussels bubble topic, Mr Juncker fired back, insisting in the Brussels bubble, though these things are pretty major. Angela Merkel, a critic of Mr Juncker's choice, said, as the European Council, we have said that who exactly becomes the Council's nominee to be President of the European Commission can't be completely automatic. French President Emmanuel Macron also criticized the process, amid fears that extremist groups could sway the vote next year.